Rebels claim 28 civilians killed in Air Force strike in Ethiopia. Johannesburg, Ethiopia's Air Force has killed at least 28 civilians in an airstrike on a town in the troubled region of Tigray, according to the Tigray People's Liberation Front. A total of 76 others were wounded in the attack on the market in the town of Alamata, regional Tigray TV reported in the evening. Both military aircraft and drones were involved in the attack. TPLF spokesperson Getachew Reda confirmed on Twitter that the victims were all civilians. The central government in Addis Ababa did not comment at first. Human Rights Watch had earlier said Tigrayan forces battling the Ethiopian government executed civilians in 2 towns located in the country's Amhara region earlier this year. In a report released Thursday, the rights group said the killings took place between August 31 and September 9. On August 31, Tigrayan forces entered the village of Chena and engaged in sporadic and at times heavy fighting with Ethiopian federal forces and allied Amhara militias, the HRW report said. Residents told the group that over the next 5 days Tigrayan forces executed 26 civilians in 15 separate incidents, before withdrawing on September 4. In the town of Kobo on September 9, Tigrayan forces summarily executed a total of 23 people in 4 separate incidents, witnesses said. The killings were in apparent retaliation for attacks by farmers on advancing Tigrayan forces earlier that day. One man who fled Kobo in mid-September told PA by phone he personally knew of one such incident on the outskirts of the town, in which 3 people were killed by Tigrayan fighters. HRW called for an independent international inquiry into alleged war crimes in Ethiopia's Tigray and Amhara regions. Tigray officials have not so far responded to the HRW report but have previously denied their forces have committed atrocities. The multi-ethnic state of Ethiopia with its almost 115 million inhabitants is threatening to disintegrate as a result of fighting that has been going on for a year. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed came to power in 2018 with the promise to reform Ethiopia. He ousted the Tigray People's Liberation Front, which had dominated the country for 25 years. In the autumn of 2020, the TPLF held independent elections in its stronghold, the northern region of Tigray, and attacked a military base shortly afterward. The government then launched a military offensive with the help of neighboring Eritrea. The most recent conflict is feared to have caused the deaths of tens of thousands of people and displaced millions of others. Both sides in the conflict are accused of carrying out killings, rights abuses and other forms of violence.
Now, dozens of people have reportedly been killed after an airstrike hit a busy market in Ethiopia's northern Tigray region. Health workers in the village of Togoga have told the Associated Press soldiers blocked medical teams from reaching the scene. This attack also happened during some of the most intense fighting since that conflict began in November. Earlier, I spoke to Martin Plaut. He's a visiting senior fellow in the Department of War Studies at King's College London. And he says the evidence suggests the Ethiopian Air Force is responsible.
There's frankly nobody else who could have done it. The Eritrean Air Force is not operating in the area. The Tigrayans have no air force. Who else could have done it? It must have been an Ethiopian jet. I don't think that will come as any surprise to anyone. Basically, the Tigrayans have been on the defensive ever since the war began in November. They were first driven out of western Tigray, then they were driven out of their capital, Mekelle, and now they have begun to take back some of the area that they lost. They are fighting against both Ethiopian and Eritrean forces. Eritrean forces, you may recall, have been coming in from the north. The Ethiopians asked them to leave, but they have so far not done so. And a string of towns have now been briefly retaken by the Tigrayans in a very major offensive. They say they have captured up to 10,000 Ethiopian troops. Now, of course, that's not verified, but that's the kind of claim that they are making, that they are now on the offensive. They've got they say, the Ethiopians on the run in some areas, but this is not a war that's going to be over in 5 minutes. The last war in this area lasted 17 years. This one's been going on 7 or 8 months.
Well, let's now speak to Hiba Morgan. She joins us from Gadaref in Sudan, near the border with Ethiopia. Hiba, the UN has already declared famine conditions in parts of Tigray, and I know you've spoken to people who've been forced to flee there. What are you hearing from them about what the situation on the ground is like?
Well, first of all, let's look at the location where this airstrike happened. It happened in northwest of Mekelle. That's a place where people will not be able to escape from to come here to refugee camps in Sudan's Gadaref and Kassala states should they want to. That's because of the location and because of the fact that Ethiopian troops are blocking the borders. So the number of refugees who are able to cross here to seek safety as well as humanitarian assistance is getting lesser and lesser as time goes by. And there are a lot of people who are displaced already by the conflict in Tigray. More than 2 million people have already been displaced, and the UN is warning that more than 350,000 are facing famine. So it is expected that the airstrike that happened today, as well as further airstrikes which are expected by the Tigrayan rebel forces, who say that they're expecting further attacks and that they're also trying to launch their own offensive to take some of the areas back. That's expected to result in more displacement and more people in need of aid. People in the area are reporting that access to health care and to medical assistance from the airstrike is being blocked. That is a report that refugees here say that is actually true, because they say that they can believe that because they say that they've seen Eritrean forces and Ethiopian forces blocking aid. So it looks like the situation in Tigray is going to get worse and worse as the days go by.
Hiba Morgan there on the ground for us at Gadaref in Sudan near the Ethiopian border. Thank you so much, Hiba.